Hello, everybody. Well, that wasn't exactly how we were looking to open, I don't think, but there we go. You gotta love live streams.
Whoops.
Oops. Hey, Daniel, welcome back.
Thank you for having me back. What's up, guys?
Welcome back. Matrix Monday Tuesday.
Yes.
That's
Oh my God. That's too
almost
funny.
exactly a month since
almost exactly a month.
Yes.
Since you almost gave me a heart attack. Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
I remember
it's
that.
happening. It's still happening. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to digging in and discussing what's coming up and what's happening with BRICS. And haven't been paying attention to the news, but I don't think they've announced officially yet the 40% gold-backed currency.
Oh yeah, we should definitely get into that.
Yes, we definitely must.
Very interesting. I'll make sure I pull that up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Got a little more technical difficulties going on here. Sorry.
No worries.
Okay, let's see who's in the chat. That's close enough for government work. And guys, links to everything we're going to show you tonight and all that kind of stuff is in the description. So make sure you go check it out. Citizens to Sound Money, Daniel's contacts, all that good stuff. So let's see what we got here. We've got Automatic Beats in the house. Welcome, Automatic Beats. Appreciate you. Mike in the house, all the way from Portugal.
Welcome. Mike.
Hey.
Appreciate you.
Welcome, Automatic.
All right. Are you having some technical difficulties? Daniel,
I'm just trying to pull things together right now.
We're good,
well,
man. I go with the flow. I go with the flow.
Yeah, usually like the coffee would kick in right about now, but I had it hours ago, so it's definitely
Well, typically you guys do it in the morning when you have a little more energy.
yeah.
That's also true. That's
This is a
also true.
switch. We're pivoting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Daniel, I'll tell you what. For those who may be jumping in who didn't see our last interview with you, why don't you give the TLDR for yourself, and we'll go from there.
Sure. The TLDR. I am a first-generation Cuban American because of what happened to my family in Cuba, and the fact that America gave them all the opportunities that they did, so that my grandfather could restart his life, buy a business, sell it, retire, and leave an inheritance for my family. I promised myself I'd never allow what happened in my family's country of Cuba to happen in my country. So at the age of 16, I got involved in politics. Now it's 25 years, and I am now the executive director of Citizens for Sound Money. Between me getting involved in 16 and now, I was a stockbroker, insurance agent, crypto miner, and blockchain consultant. Now I run a sound money organization where our mission is to promote the use of sound money and protect people's rights to do so. And we protect people's rights to use sound money through legislation. Last year we pushed the Sound Money Act, which was basically an omnibus bill with everything we wanted. That strategy didn't work so great in all the states, so we broke up our Sound Money Act. And basically what we're trying to do is make gold and silver, physical and digital gold and silver legal tender, get rid of capital gains and sales tax on the purchase and sale of gold and silver, get the states to put a percentage of their reserve funds into gold and silver, at least 1%. And some states might even want to do 10%. And then what's the last thing? Capital gains, 1%. I think that's it. And then there was a part of the bill where we're trying to get the states to create a depository, but that is a big faux pas amongst treasurers across the country. So we're not really pushing that just yet. We figure we have enough of a battle between getting rid of taxes, making legal tender, and adding 1% into the treasury. So that is what I do now, and that is the
TLDR. Yes, you want to know what? There's a lot there, and for those who want to unpack it even further, go back to our first interview. Link for that's in the description. Listen, guys, I'm not sure who, but I can hear a little feedback in the.
It's probably me.
I think it's Crypto Jar, because I do hear the feedback as well.
All right.
Okay, so then it's got to be you there, Jar. And let's go real quick through. Mike saying, you guys might have some Baileys in the coffee there.
Yeah,
there are days.
I did a call where I was drinking whiskey right before we got into a meeting with some people, and I have to edit that out.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. FF is here. Hey, bud, if you can't make it, I get it. Stuff happens. No worries. Appreciate you checking in, though. Yeah, exactly. We just got that.
Is it gone now?
I don't hear it. Can you
Okay.
hear it, Daniel? I don't hear it anymore.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it
No,
was
I don't
me.
hear it.
No big
Yep.
deal.
All right. Appreciate it. Yeah, and yes, he's saying, yeah, everybody's now telling us there's an echo. All right. Well, we got it. I think we got it clipped. And
Well,
Bedell,
I hear an echo coming from you too.
really?
Yeah. Well, there's an echo. I hear it after you're talking. Yeah. I don't hear. Test. Yeah, I don't hear myself.
Yeah.
I hear it when you talk.
When I talk.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go play around with that there, and let's see. Although Mike is saying there's no more echo,
Okay.
but we'll go check it out. I'll check my end out. Whiskey, Daniel needs to go to Crypto on the Rocks on Friday nights. Yes, Crypto on the Rocks on Friday nights. When I do that show, we encourage the drinking.
Really?
Yes,
I might have to join.
I'll send you a link if you want to join. You're welcome. We do it every Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern.
Sounds good.
Anyway. And Bedell saying he doesn't hear any echo either now. Okay, good.
All right, I think we're
well, Jar, go ahead. I got him to do the TLDR. You got questions? You might be ahead of me there.
Yeah. Well, I can start off with the fun part. So there was supposed to be you scared the shit out of me last time, and you were talking about a market collapse.
Yes.
You gave it a shot clock of 48 hours. There was a lot of roller coaster rides with BTC.
Yes.
What do you see right now? So it didn't collapse in that 48 hours.
Not yet.
The cracks are definitely showing, though.
And I did, yes, the cracks are definitely showing. I also did say within 48 hours, and it could be as long as a year if we look back at historical records of collapses after a rate cut. So I said as short as 48 hours, as long as a little over a year. If we go back to 2008, it was about a year before everything took a crap. Actually, even before that, if we look back at what happened in 2008, it's the exact same thing. On September 18th of this year, there was a 50 basis point cut. On September 18th of 2008, there was a 50 basis point cut. This is what's happening now is exactly what happened to 08. There was a ramp up before there was a collapse that started really in January. We saw a 25% basis cut in October, which they're anticipating another 25 basis point cut, another 25 basis point cut in November.
Yep.
And I think in January in 08, they did 125 basis cuts 2 days before the scheduled meeting, and another like 50 basis points. It was like, or maybe another 125. It was like over 325 basis points in a few months.
Yeah, a little bit of a panic.
Yeah, they didn't even overcompensate because it was crashing, and then they started QEing in. So if we're looking at what's unbelievable is how similar the situation in 08 was to now. And the day by day almost exactly the same. The fluctuations and the changes are almost identical. There was a slight ramp up, and then it crashed.
Can I throw one wrinkle in that?
Sure.
The wrinkle to me is we are now at almost $36 trillion in debt, and we weren't in 2008. Do you see that as a mitigating factor?
I mean, I think that makes it worse. So
okay.
Look, all QE did was the world looked over into the abyss and they saw how far the financial system could collapse and completely destroy the fiat system. So every central bank almost simultaneously did quantitative easing. In 08, everybody's currency being printed in debt and deficit spending went up. They bailed out everybody. They bailed out the bankers. They bailed out every sector. The Wall Street, they just threw currency into the system. And all that did is the same thing that happens when you have a hangover. You don't want to suffer the hangover, you drink more. And it just prolongs and prolongs and prolongs it. We have been drinking for how many years now?
We're alcoholics. Yeah.
We're like
if we're gonna use that analogy, we're
exactly. No, truth.
So I mean, we had a little blip with COVID. COVID was just let's just throw COVID out. If we cut COVID out and connect all the lines again, it's basically following the same trend. And look, the economy is not doing well, and I think with BRICS announcing this week that they're going to create a 40% backed currency with the yuan and probably the ruble and all the members of the BRICS nations, I mean, that is going to put a lot of pressure in the United States to do something. And I've heard other economists saying that what the U.S. might do, which Trump alluded to with Bitcoin, was reevaluating an ounce of gold, because right now the over 8,000 tons that are in Fort Knox is only evaluated at $42 an ounce. And if they said that they might even reevaluate the gold at $20,000 an ounce, which would give us an additional over $5 trillion of assets, which decreases the debt to, well, not GDP, but debt to asset ratio that the United States has, that makes it more manageable if we're able to pay off our long-term debt with the gold. This is all hypothetical. I'm just saying what other economists are saying. But listen, don't believe me. And go online and Google like what economists are saying on YouTube articles. Just type in economic collapse 2024 2025 economic collapse. You're gonna find economists and video and article after article after video after article explaining the exact details of why we're about to go into an economic collapse that some people think are going to be worse than 08 and some think as bad as the Great Depression.
So 08 was a mortgage-backed crisis, right? Like that was really defined in the housing market. Right now, I keep hearing about this is the bubble of bubbles. There's multiple bubbles happening right now. Is there a sector right now that's really the catalyst, like one specific one or multiple three?
Okay, let's hear it.
Yeah.
We have three primary legs of our economy. We have the stock market, we have the debt market, and we got the real estate market. Those are our three prongs. In 2000 or 1999, 2000, during the dot-com bubble, the only bubble was the stock market bubble. Now let me go back in history, because most of the bubbles are because of the stock market. Why is that? Well, if you go back in history and start looking at newspapers and the campaign against the Federal Reserve Act and the bankers pushing for the Federal Reserve Act and bribing Woodrow Wilson and getting them president, you look at that battle. Some of the cartoons that the newspapers were drawing about the Federal Reserve was a Federal Reserve as an octopus with multiple tentacles, and the tentacles are dropping cash, and the mouth is vomiting currency into the stock market. This is in 1913 that they're talking about the FDR might as well be, but the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve vomiting currency in the stock. They knew back then that all that was going to happen is this inflation being pumped into the stock market. And what happened in 1929? Oh, wow, the stock market crashed. Why do you think that was? Well, fractional reserve banking. Prior to the central bank, I mean, there wasn't fractional reserve banking to the extent that there was after the Federal Reserve. Because they set up multiple Federal Reserves and they reevaluated after the Great Depression the ounce of gold that was $20 an ounce, and they reevaluated to $35 an ounce. So just know that the stock market bubble in 1999, 2000 is the same bubble that's happened since the Federal Reserve was created. All right. But that's because they dumped currency. What happened in 08? Well, the government got involved and said the banks have to accept loans for people who can't qualify. That was under Bill Clinton in 1996. He signed a bill that required banks to accept people who couldn't, so that everybody can get a home, right? That's a very socialist law. Well, what happened? Well, greedy people got figured out a way to hide bad loans with good loans, and the whole system collapsed. There was all this free currency being printed, and all these people who couldn't afford it, and it was so easy to get a loan. All you had to do was write down, oh yeah, I make $200,000, and they give you a loan for a house. So there's all this liquidity being created to bank credit, which created a bubble that the banks created. Because the Federal Reserve was dumping, and the Federal Reserve just creates currency. The banks create bank credit. I mean, it's all working together. Well, then it collapses. And what was one of the first things the government did other than the bailout? They bailed out Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And what did they do? They nationalized Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. The charter of the 1913 Federal Reserve Act says that the Federal Reserve can only buy guaranteed securities of the United States, which was only bonds and notes. Well, once they nationalized Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, whoa, there's a new item on the menu that the Federal Reserve can pump currency into. Now, not only did we have a stock market bubble in 2099, we had a stock market bubble and a real estate bubble collapse. Two bubbles.
Right.
This is the first time now that we have a three-legged bubble. We have a bubble in the debt market, we have a bubble in the real estate market, and we have a bubble in the stock market. I already explained how the real estate market and the .com bubble, new currency, mortgage-backed securities, it just bloated. Well, what about debt?
Right.
Well, guess what? China was our biggest holder of debt, and they've unloaded on us. And most countries that are not our biggest friends have unloaded our debt. So what is the Federal Reserve meant to be? They're meant to be the lender of last resort. So when no foreign entity wants to buy our debt, if no bank wants to buy our debt, if people don't want to buy our debt, well, guess who buys our debt? The Federal Reserve, which means, well, it's not going into circulation. The Federal Reserve is just buying the debt and giving it to the state, and there's no interest going in other than the Federal Reserve, meaning the bankers are getting more money.
Right.
And hold on, my cat likes jumping up when I'm on podcast.
That's okay. The cat's invited.
Where was I? Was my train?
You're talking about the whole circular debt thing because the Fed is buying up the
right. So in November of last year, when I watched a video by Mike Maloney where he was talking about the three bubbles and about how the top four banks had over, I think it was $650 billion in unrealized losses in commercial real estate, which we see now today that they're accepting as losses. Like everything that I started predicting. Bring the cat. Bring on the cat.
Yeah, I know.
He'll jump up here again. He doesn't really listen well. He's a cat. So in November is when I started saying that there was going to be a collapse starting in around May and June, and it started. I said in the last video that my bank, Juno, which is a banking as a service, and a bunch of other banks that have I don't know how many billions, $30-something billion locked up because of the collapse of Synapsis. Financial exchange. No one wants U.S. bonds anymore because it's worthless monopoly money. It's come to fruition, right? So the bond market, for the first time in 40 years, is in a bear market. Nobody wants our bonds. We're cutting interest rates, and the long-term bonds are going to go up. So do you guys know the relationship between interest rates and bonds, the price of bonds?
Slightly, but maybe
a little bit. Yeah. Why don't you though spell it out because people watching might not.
So bonds that have lower interest, when the Federal Reserve raises interest rates, lose value because they can buy newer bonds that are paying interest. That's why all these banks were upset and going under because the Federal Reserve said they weren't going to rapidly raise rates. So the banks went all in on these low interest rate bonds, thinking, the Federal Reserve is going to keep their word and not raise interest rates. Well, they lied, and they raised interest rates the fastest they've done in decades. And what happened? What happens to the cost of those bonds? Well, it's unrealized losses because interest rates went up, and the banks now have billions of dollars in unrealized losses because those treasury bonds, they can't sell in the secondary market for a profit. So they have to keep it into maturity, which is 10, 20, 30 years. But banks like trading treasury bonds and making money just like anybody else. So that's where a lot of the unrealized losses, plus the commercial real estate losses of loans that went bad because of COVID, and everybody decided, hey, we can run the world working from home on Zoom. So that's just so many different catalysts happening. But the bond market is now in the first time in 40 years in a bear market. And if you look at the numbers, I forget which Federal Reserve charts it shows, but they started buying up the overwhelming majority of the treasury bonds being issued are being bought up for the Federal Reserve. You see an exponential increase since November of last year of the amount of treasury bonds that the Federal Reserve is buying themselves. So everything is coming to a head. The three bubbles are about to burst, and 2008 almost destroyed the economic the economy of the world, and that was two bubbles. We're in three bubbles.
Yeah,
I can only imagine what's going to happen.
So that's the whole thing, is I can't even imagine like the impact. So if there's three different bubbles in three different areas, like, is it a reset? Basically, when we're talking about debt faulting,
we're talking about a new world order, a new economy.
Okay, and those are scary things.
The Fiat, this is good. Fiat is going to die, and it needs to die. I think what's going to happen.
So something's going to take its place.
Yeah. Well, do you really believe it's going to die, or is it going to transition to like a CBDC?
It's going to transition to asset-backed CBDCs. There he is. He told you he was going to come back. All right. So who was I talking to? I was talking to somebody in my industry. Oh, that's what it was. A friend of mine has this guy on that is a day trader, and he's just he doesn't work on Wall Street, but he does a lot of trading. So he studies all this. So he didn't believe about the market collapse. Him and I got into conversation, and after I presented the data, he completely changed his tune because he misunderstood what he was told about what I'm saying about the economy. And then as we were talking, I said, look, there's going to be probably, like I said earlier in the show, probably a reevaluation of the gold in Fort Knox to back the currency a bit. Because if BRICS is coming out with a gold currency, the United States isn't going to stand back and stay in the corner and not fight. They're going to do something. And we have 8,000 tons of gold. We still have the largest gold reserves on the planet. Not the 90% we used to have after World War II, but we still have the largest holdings. I think the closest is China, and they have a little over 4,000 tons from what we could gather, not including the 28,000 tons of gold held by private citizens in China that they can make illegal and confiscate. So,
Yeah.
what I am predicting is that the age of real world assets, look at what they're talking about. Look at what the banks are talking about. Look at what the governments are doing. They've created the rails for electronic currency for instantaneous transfer of money around the world. And now the banks are talking about real world assets. And the UN is working with the small island nations to tokenize assets that could never be tokenized, so that they can, let's, for instance, coral reefs of the Great Barrier Reef. They can tokenize that and sell the carbon cleaning efforts of the Barrier Reef as assets for Australia to earn more investments, and other nations can do that too. The world is moving towards a digital age. It might not be the CBDC we're fearing for China, but it'll be some type of CBDC backed by real world assets. And that is where I think we're going to go. I think they realize the fiat economy has failed, and we might get there. Now, that's just one theory.
Failed, or is it? It seems a little bit intentional. Like a lot of the stuff that's happening right now,
I agree with you.
Kind of unnecessary. Like when we're
Failed
talking
on
about
purpose.
like
How about
frivolous
that?
spending.
Yep.
Failed on purpose.
Yeah, because like those last meetings with Ukraine and the amount of money that gets sent over without permission, it just seems to automatically happen. Hundreds of billions of dollars. Where's the money coming from and everything else? There's quite a bit of intentional things that are happening
Currency.
where if
Not
you
money,
actually
currency.
pulled it back, we
Yeah.
wouldn't have this type of reaction. Yeah, so when you're saying it's moving to a direction, I think it's being forced in a direction, and I think we're also being cattled
Right.
that way.
100%. Look, they are. This is all speculation. I don't have any evidence. I just have read a lot. I've seen what the bankers have done, going back to how they toppled Napoleon. Did you know Napoleon was fighting against the bankers, and the bankers are the one that bankrolled the UK to destroy him because he was making it a mission to destroy the banking cartel?
No, I didn't know that at all.
When Napoleon was sent and locked up, the king, I forget the king's name, that ruled for 10 years while Napoleon was in prison, he was being controlled by the bankers. And then he resigned because he had no real power. The bankers were really in control. Like, this is not a conspiracy theory. Read history books. The bankers have been messing with empires and empire building. They make profit in every war. They're financing both sides of every war. Win or lose, they're making money. And look, I talked about the Fabian Society, which were basically Marxist or socialist economists that believe in taking over, and not through revolution, but through the central banks and stealing people's wealth and so forth. I think it's a coordinated attempt to just crash the system to bring about a global currency. And the global currency, look, it's good. Gold has always been a global currency. Now it's a digital currency that they can control. And who's the first country to pass a gold CBDC that's partially backed with gold? Zimbabwe.
Oh, okay. I didn't.
And they've been going through a deflationary event ever since. The head of the central bank was worried about deflation because their currency is getting so strong against the rest of the world, because the rest of the world is fiat. And their currency is backed with fiat and I think 40 or 50% gold.
So almost half. When did that happen with Zimbabwe?
That happened, was it this year?
So it's recent.
No, last year, in June of last year. I was using it, talking to legislators all year last year and this year. So they passed the it's called the ZIG dollar, or the ZIG, not the dollar, just the ZIG. And the ZIG CBDC, they have gold coins that are ZIGs, and they have digital currency that are ZIGs. So
Wow. Okay.
Oh.
Zimbabwe did it. They're the first CBDC to go back to a gold standard, and immediately created a deflationary event against other assets because gold, there is a theoretical threshold to stabilize currencies, and that's 40%. If you back any currency, paper or digital, this wasn't written with digital, so let's just say paper currency with 40%, that's enough gold to stabilize any other fluctuations in the other assets backing it. So, like, let's talk about Bitcoin, right? If you back a stable coin with gold and Bitcoin, 40% gold should stabilize the fluctuations of Bitcoin enough. So there you go. The Zimbabwe ZIG. And if you 2020 April 2024,
April 2024.
backed by
yeah.
575 million worth of hard assets, gold, and other precious metals.
Wow. Okay. So it's already in play. This is a good case study to see how this works out.
We're flying to Zimbabwe to record for our TV show that we're doing.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Yeah, Zimbabwe is one of the stops. Turkey, so places that have had super high inflation. We can't really go into Venezuela unless we are somehow secret about it. We're gonna go to Argentina. We're gonna go to Indonesia. We're gonna go to a bunch of places that have. We already went to Puerto Rico, the sizzle reel, and we got a lot of footage from Puerto Rico because Puerto Rico has the highest inflation rate in the country because everything has to be imported, and it has to be imported through U.S. companies. We can't have direct like foreign countries. They have to be have at least a U.S. company or shipping company be an intermediary.
Really?
So
Okay.
yeah. So listen. I'm really excited. Look up. It's been a year, so there should be enough data about the effects of launching a gold-backed currency on the economy. And Zimbabwe isn't known for having a stable economy, if you get what I mean.
No, that's
they were
true.
printing
That's
they had a $1 million bill or $1 trillion bill or something
Trillion.
like that, right?
Yeah,
$10 trillion or something.
yeah.
Yeah.
And this question from Badell, he sold all his crypto. That comes from our last interview. That's where this question's coming from. And by the way, I made a kind of short out of that, so it got a lot of views. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I need to watch that short. I saw a short that you released the other day. Gotta watch that short. I did sell. I sell all but $400 or $500 worth of Bitcoin because I forgot about it. So I left it. I'm like, let's see what happens. And it's also wrapped Bitcoin, not real Bitcoin, but same. But listen, I do not regret selling my Bitcoin because Bitcoin has gone up and down, and I see it go up and down. But you know what's been constantly going up, and my wealth has been going up? Gold and silver.
All-time highs for silver today, wasn't it, or something?
All-time highs, $50 in 1981. But I think it's going to hit $50, and I think gold's going to hit $3,000 before the end of the year, the way that things are going. There you go. Value this year. No, the Zimbabwe, the dollar plummeted, not the ZIG.
Right.
The dollar is not backed by anything.
Yeah, well.
So it's
full
basically
faith of the government.
Right
sorry.
Yeah. The let me see.
See if I can
This
get
is
another one here.
Amplifier. This is about Sound Money, and Daniel Diaz is the executive director of Citizens for Sound Money.
Yes.
100 Air, welcome. Sorry, guys. Did the cat just jump back in there?
He doesn't listen, man. He keeps doing it. I love him. He's a little slow, but he's my slow cat.
Okay, Daniel, I'm gonna give you this question. Here you go.
Go ahead. What is sound money? That's a fantastic question. So there are a few definitions and few characteristics of sound money, but the overwhelming understanding of what money is, sound money just means real money. The dollar, the euro, that's not money. That's currency. What do I mean by that? So there's three primary characteristics that Keynesians and Austrians and everybody pretty much agree with what defines money. A medium of exchange. Anything can be a medium of exchange. Cats, dirt, tubes, whatever. Anything can be a medium of exchange. A unit of account. Pretty much anything is a unit of account. If you can weigh it, you can measure it. 100 pennies to $1 and 31.1035 grams for a troy ounce. Whatever. That's a medium. So basically, those two characteristics, anything can be. But the third thing is what differentiates money from currency. The third thing is a store of value. Money stores value, like gold and silver. Gold and silver has preserved the purchasing power of humanity for millennia. What hasn't preserved your purchasing power? the currency because they're printing it into oblivion, and they're stealing your wealth. As they expand the currency supply, your purchasing power loses. So yeah, exactly. The Ray Dalio, watch that. It's like a 30-minute
It was a
video on
really good one.
YouTube.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yes.
To changing world orders, to understand it. We're not. There's some people out there, the preppers, right, that have bunkers underground and everything. They think society's going to collapse and nukes.
This situation's not unique. It's happened several times.
It's
over
happened
and over.
so many times.
Yeah.
It's just we don't have people who study history, so they don't understand the world's not going to come to an end. It's going to suck. Deflation sucks. Losing the value of your currency sucks. Not being the superpower economically anymore sucks.
Yep.
But we're going to be here and we're going to survive. We survived the Great Depression. We survived 2008. It's just like there's a new world order when the British pound went from being the primary currency to the dollar, which was backed by gold, just like the British pound was. I mean, the British pound is still, Britain's still here. They're still a superpower. Well, kind of. They're up there. They have great military. We're always going to be up there. It's impossible for us to be conquered. It's impossible for us to lose a war because we have two great protectors, the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean. And literally the whole world would need to turn on us for us to even have an opportunity to lose an invasion. There's not enough, put it this way, there's not enough Navy ships out there to bring enough people to invade the United States. Even if Canada and Mexico invade. We have so many military bases on our borders. Listen, we're fine. Economically, not so much. So that is the difference between. So Ray Dalio goes and shows you the history of like the Dutch Empire, the French Empire, the Spanish Empire. Every empire lasts around the average, where their currency and their might is the number one power in the world. It's about 92 years. We're beyond that. I think we're like 97, 98, something like that years. I forget the exact number. We're due for a change in the world order.
Yeah.
So that's what money is. That's what inflation is. That's what we're talking about today.
And it definitely seems like, and rather than a country taking over the spot, it looks like it's going to be a union, a group of countries, it just seems like it's going to be a pact. And this is where that unified world, new world order concept comes into play with we're getting into a unionized movement.
And that's why our dollar says new world order, or, in Latin or whatever it is, because we are an experiment. Our experiment is successful. I'm not talking about economically. Our economic experiment was gold and silver. That was usurped with Ulysses S. Grant stacking the courts and making greenbacks legal tender. And when the Supreme Court the day before ruled unconstitutional, only gold and silver is legal tender, it was overturned and usurped. So economically, that's different. But when it comes to government, we are an experiment, and the most successful experiment within the entire human history, human race. We are the oldest constitution in the world, and I don't see us collapsing anytime soon. Yeah, we have turmoil. We might have a little scuffle here and there, but our form of government, mixing the monarchy, mixing the republic, and mixing the democracy together into a three-part democratic republic. Channeling Ray Dalio. Yeah, I absorb a lot of information, man. I like regurgitating and teaching it. So yeah, that is. I lost my train of thought. That happens a lot when it's my ADHD. I squirrel.
Yeah, no. You're talking about absorbing different concepts and different unions. So you had the British Union. You had the
right. So I'm trying to remember. I know I was talking about unions, but I'm trying to connect my thought process. I don't know who that is. I'll call them back. Currencies, collapse of the governments. What was I saying? Why did I have my three fingers up?
Oh, well, you're talking about how the U.S. would remain dominant.
Government. I remember. Got it connected. Yeah. So our former government is phenomenal, right? And we are the United States, the way we were created, that was a new world order. It's never been done. Where we have brought monarchy, republic, and democracy together as three branches of government. And that is what the new world order for the United States was referencing back then. It's something new. We didn't know we were going to become a superpower. We had no idea. We were just a small little colony that beat off the biggest power in the world. France was more powerful than us. Spain. Every pretty much country was more powerful. We didn't become a world power until the end of World War I, when we started receiving all this gold. Now we have all this money, real money. We can start using it to build infrastructure. And then you want to understand why we're also so powerful and why it's going to be so difficult. Look up at the history. There was a YouTube video. Look up the history of our interstate system. They've been talking about creating an interstate system since the late 19th century, and we tried to build it before World War I. Then we got sucked into World War I. Then there was a war with not a war, but there was a raid from Mexico, a Pancho Pio or whatever his name is, I forget. And we sent 100,000 troops to Mexico, and then we got into World War II, right? So we've tried to build the interstate, but there's things that happen. And then Eisenhower was part of the first expedition. The United States sent like hundreds of trucks from Washington, D.C. to San Francisco to see how bad the road system was. Eisenhower was on that. He was a lieutenant colonel then. And then after he went to Germany and saw how well the German Autobahn was for shipping and keeping our soldiers fed and getting reinforcements because of the Autobahn, he came back, became president, and made it his #1 mission to make sure we had an interstate system like the Autobahn for military protection. And that's another reason why we will never be able to be conquered, because our interstate system is one of the best, if not the best interstate system in the world. It produces so much economic commerce. That's another reason why we're such an economic powerhouse, because of the infrastructure of the United States. And the states cover part of it, and the federal government pays for a lot of. There's so much history, and that's why people they don't understand what's happening economically, and they don't understand the real threats that we have. The real threat we have is economic, not us collapsing. It's going to be so difficult to destroy this country. But economically, they understand that if they can create civil strife, when I say they, I'm talking about the communist socialists like Russia, Iran, North Korea. We are stopping them from doing what they want to do. And they understood, the Fabian economists. I have to find the speech by not Gorbachev, who was Khrushchev. Khrushchev gave a speech about how we will take over without firing a shot, take over the United States. And it's played out since he gave that speech. The socialism, the overthrow of our get this, he's talking about pornography and sports games and everything, and just destroying the moral fabric of our country. And by destroying the moral fabric of our country, stealing our wealth through the printing of currency, Khrushchev is saying this. This is how we destroy America economically, because they know it's impossible to destroy us militarily. So there's just so much. If people just sat down and read and looked up a history, and there's a lot, man. I've been studying for a bit, and it's just connected a bunch of dots, and it's making things clearer with my worldview. I see it so clearly, and I wish I could help educate people to see it the same way,
Well, it's a lot of information and a lot of different areas that you have to focus on in order to see the bigger picture. The interstate that you're talking about, I knew infrastructure was a big deal, just to get anything from point A to point B, and how important that was. And one of the major infrastructure projects I remember that was underway was to build a system that connected the entire North America together. I'm talking from Mexico through the United States up into Canada, and then from coast to coast. And that was one of the development plans that was supposed to go into 2050. And sections of it have been implemented and then broken up, and then implemented and broken up. There's usually factors that makes it stop. But it's interesting what you're saying, that it's a military effort to really get that going. And
in fact, the highway system was also built on purpose to be an emergency landing strip for if we needed to bring military planes in for supplies, and also for emergency landings for commercial planes and everything. So there's the interstate system, was multi-purpose and built with specific sections that are straight away for miles. 1 or 2 miles, so large planes could land on.
So you can do that pretty much anywhere, because you have that all over the place, miles of straight road, right? So that makes sense.
Exactly. So the interstate system was a engineering marvel, especially I-70 when it goes through the canyons. That was the last part of the entire interstate system that was done, and that cost around $38 million. I think when I saw it, $38 million a mile. You take that section out, it was more like 10 or 18 million, or it was 5 million, then it bloated to 18 million, and that strip was like 38 or 48 million a mile because they had to go through the canyon and carve it out. It was super. It was that section right there of I-70 is economic, engineering marvel over there on the West Coast.
Yeah. Wow, that's insane. I know we're a crypto show.
Sorry.
But everything impacts it, right? Like this is
Yeah.
all interesting stuff. So,
and here he is again.
Oh, welcome back.
Yeah. Because when he jumps up, I can't see you guys.
That's all right. Well, like Jar said, this is a crypto show, and I know not everybody tuned into the first interview we did with you. So why don't you kind of give them your thought process with regard to Bitcoin and so on?
I used to be a Bitcoin maxi. Let's start there. And my first chink in my armor that really tested my faith in Bitcoin being the digital gold was the Ukrainian war. If Bitcoin is supposed to act like gold digitally, then what should have happened during the Ukrainian war is what should have what should have happened to Bitcoin is what happened to gold. Gold shot up, and so did silver right when the Ukrainian war happened. But what happened with Bitcoin? It tanked. It tanked with the stock market and everything. It followed the Nasdaq. So that
do you
was
think
the first.
Some of that had to do with manipulation, though, at the same time with index funds coming into play and everything else?
Sure, there's manipulation everywhere, right? But the stock market, all the stock market is the hopes and fears of the person's psyche, or the people's psyche. So when it's greed and fear, that's all it is. When people are buying and buying and buying, it's greed, and when it's people are selling, it's fear. He doesn't learn, man.
That's all right. That's all right. He wants some attention.
He does. He's gonna get it after this. Give him some treats and some soft food.
There you
go. Yeah. So Bitcoin. Yes. Exactly.
Chuck Danger 87 completely agrees with you.
Yeah, 100%. So Bitcoin, that was the first chink, but I still was a maxi. And then as I got into the sound money movement, and I started learning about what real money was, what credit was, what currency was, I realized money needs to be stable. You can't have somebody buy Bitcoin who lives paycheck to paycheck, which is 78% of Americans, mind you. They don't even have $1,000 to their name. So you're asking 4/5 of America to buy Bitcoin as money and potentially lose 15% of that value in a day, or give or take. I mean, that 15% is whether or not they're going to have gas to go to work or eat. So it can't be money. What Bitcoin is a wealth generating asset, and money is gold and silver. So as in the last interview, I said, think of gold as a central monetary unit of which all other assets measure itself. Mm-hmm. So what you do is you take an ounce of gold and divide that by the price of that asset. And if you extrapolate the price of that asset over a certain amount of time, and it's a gold to asset ratio, you'll see trends when the asset is overpriced, and then there's typically a bubble, and then it drops. So when an asset is overpriced and it gets near that top of that ratio throughout history, you sell that asset and go into gold. When that asset crashes and it gets near to the bottom of that ratio, you sell your gold and get in the asset. It's called wealth cycling. Gold is your safe haven. It's the asset of which all other assets measure itself. And then when you want to multiply your wealth, like with Bitcoin, I think it's crashing. So I sold all my Bitcoin, put it in the gold. It's been going up. It's preserving my wealth. And Bitcoin has just been banging back and forth, hitting that 70 and coming down, hitting that 70, coming down. So when Bitcoin, if I'm right, and Bitcoin tanks like NASDAQ and everything, when it gets to that bottom ratio, historical ratio, I'm going to sell my not all of it. I'm going to sell my gold and buy Bitcoin and wealth cycle in. Bitcoin, just like any other asset, is a wealth generating asset.
So you're using
gold
it as
is
a
money.
Tool. Okay, right. So then how does real estate fit into the perspective as well? Because that was, other than saving and buying gold, something that would last a long period of time. A lot of people are investing majority of their wealth into real estate. That's very difficult to cycle in and out of. So what would you say with people that are buying homes and everything else going into
In
the market that we're into?
2008, if you had equity in your home before the crash, if you would have taken that equity out and put it in the gold and silver, you would have most likely been able to pay off most, if not the entire mortgage. So if you have equity in your property right now, before it crashes, take a low interest loan out, put it in the gold and silver, which has gone up. Not financial advice. This is just me theorizing what you should do.
Covering our butts.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. This is not financial advice, guys. I'm just giving you some ideas. Mike Maloney actually said this. So let's say I'm repeating what Mike Maloney said. He did this himself and others. People took out, and I know somebody actually locally that did this, and he paid off his house after the economy recovered, because gold spiked, silver spiked. I think to like $40 an ounce for silver, and it got up to like $1,800 or $2,000 right after 2008. There was a big bull market. People made a killing. If you would have sold near the top, or even when it started coming down, that return would have been able to pay off the loan and part of your equity. All right. So that's one thing you can do if you don't have income generating assets. Now, if you have income generating real estate, that's great. Convert the money you don't need to pay off the mortgage into gold and silver during the 3 to 5 year bull market. Right. And real estate is fantastic. Real estate is not money, though. Right. And when you need liquidity, if the market crashes and you don't have that liquidity with the equity, then tough. You're on the water or whatever. But while you still have liquidity, I know people that are selling the properties now and get into RVs because they don't know what's happening. Nobody knows what's happening. I don't have a glass ball. I am figuring out the probability based on 100+ years of history, millennia, really. If we're really going on the big macro view of gold and silver and how it affects with nations, I'm just looking long term and predicting the probability of this happening again. And so far it's playing out. Almost the timing's off, but it's happening exactly as I've been saying since November of last year. So real estate, yes. If you have real estate and this is your primary business, great. Just know that people might not be able to pay you rent. And it's going to be like 2020 again, where they're going to freeze and you can't evict your land. So consider that in your risk analysis. Buy real estate if you're just buying land. Right, but wait if you're just buying it if it's not a generating asset, because I really think the bubble is going to crash and there's going to be the greatest wealth transfer in the history of mankind here soon. When we go into this new order, people who have gold and put most of their economic energy in gold, it's going to multiply more than those who didn't. And when properties go down, when stock market, the S&P 500, NASDAQ goes down, keep an eye on it, and start DCAing in. It's impossible to don't put all your money in at once.
Don't time it.
Don't time it. Buy 500 here, 1,000 there. When you think it's near the bottom, if it keeps going down, great. You're buying it cheaper and cheaper. But if it keeps going up, DCA in. Because it could just be a dead cat bounce or whatever it's called, and then it come back down. So just DCA in. And property, like I plan on buying some property when the market crashes. I've flipped homes in the past and everything. This is going to be land where I buy and I build. This is different.
I've been watching it closely, and the reason why I was asking that question is because I'm just outside of Toronto. I'm in Canada, and the real estate market for 20 years just kept going up. It was like you can never buy a house in Toronto, at least in the Toronto area, and lose money. However, now circumstances have changed. Interest rates are higher. They've been cutting rates and the market is flat. Usually if you put a house up for sale in the GTA, you would sell it within 14 days, maybe 30 days tops. Now we're going into 60 days, 45, 90 days. It's just sitting on the market. People are pulling off. And when they're selling at a loss. This trend hasn't happened in a very, very long time. It happened during the crisis for a very brief moment in time. During the 2008 crisis. And I think it was about 3 to 4 months that happened. But this has been going on the entire year this year. And it looks like even with the rate cuts, nothing's changing. And it looks like it's continuing. So I'm looking at real estate plays myself just to see what it is. And that's why I wanted to get your opinion on what you think would happen and hedging
real estate. Yeah, real estate's a great asset. Don't buy anything yet. Like my friend.
No, I'm not. I'm still waiting to see what happens in the new year.
My friend just sold her house and she's thinking about buying some land. I'm like, wait a little bit because you might be able to get some big discounts in a year or so. I said,
Yeah.
like, just put it in gold, silver, or just, I hate cash, but if you want to leave it in cash, leave it in cash. I'm advising her to put it in gold and silver. And wait, you know, they can put it in Kinesis. Kinesis, you can put it in gold, and then the next day you have it cash in your bank account. You know, Kinesis is an asset-backed digital currency company where you don't pay bolting fees. You actually earn a yield by holding your real money in the system. And there's a bunch of other benefits. They just launched a new Goldback, the Metalback program, where you have an account, you can actually buy from thousands of stores and get cash back, but metal back from 1 to 10%. And you don't even need to use your debit card or the gold to pay for things. You can actually use your Fiat bank card, just go through the portal, and it will record the purchase, and they'll pay you in gold and silver.
Huh.
So Kinesis is great. You can put your money in gold and silver, sell it into cash that same day, wire transfer it over, and it'll be in your account typically within a day. Can take a day or two extra because it comes from Australia for now. They're coming up with banking solutions in America, so it'll be a lot quicker in the future. But that's like, if I need money quick, I have money in a bunch of different companies, guys, the digital and physical. And I have a lot more physical now too. Kind of having fun selling and playing with gold and silver in my hands is kind of a great hobby to have.
I think this is, let me just pull this up here. Is this what you're talking about?
Kinesis.money.
Kinesis.money. Okay, I think this is it. Yeah. I'll pull it up on the screen. There we go.
There it is. Okay. Yep, that's it. And I will get, if you want to post that link, I will get the referral code for Citizens for Sound Money. So maybe C4SM can get some benefits from sharing this with people. Yeah, zero storage fees. And if you scroll up, there should be maybe a metal back. Oh, look, they're even comparing. There you go.
0.22% on transactions.
22 basis points.
Yeah.
It's pretty low. And then they're going to be coming out with Kinesis Pro, which is a crypto only exchange, and the fees are going to be lower. At least from what I understand.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. I've never even seen this before.
Yeah, you're learning quite a few things with me.
I'm always learning something when you're on.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that platform, you can trade Bitcoin. So that's where I do all my trading with real Bitcoin. You know, with Wrap Bitcoin, I have it on Trust Wallet and MetaMask. But it has, I think, 12 or 13 digital assets: USDT, USDC, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dash, XLM, a bunch of others. So it's a crypto platform. You can send your Bitcoin there, and then what I like doing is like trading Bitcoin and gold, because I like seeing that gold to Bitcoin ratio. It's like 700 and something ounces of gold, or no, maybe not anymore. Maybe it's 10 ounces. I forget how many ounces of gold it is, and also how many ounces of silver to Bitcoin. So I like that comparison. So you get used to seeing another asset in the gold to silver ratio,
which is not what we're used to.
No,
yeah,
I'm not used to using that as a value transactional thing at all. So that's new to me. Yeah.
And let me just make another clarification. Sure. Gold and silver isn't going up. What's happening is the dollar's losing value. The euro's losing value. The yen, it's like 100, 200,000 yen for 1 ounce of gold. It's not that the gold is moving. Gold is a rock. Gold doesn't produce a yield. Gold doesn't have a business. It doesn't have a price to earnings ratio. It is literally a stone. You sit it there and nothing happened for 10,000 years. You come back, brush off the dust, it sits there.
Yeah.
Gold doesn't go up or down. What it does is it's the central monetary unit of which all assets are measured, including fiat. So the reason why it keeps going up in value is because the value of the fiat goes down. So don't think of gold and silver as an investment. It is not an investment. Gold and silver is money. So when you buy it, you're saving. You're saving your economic energy. Money is only a representation of energy. That's it. The entire universe is energy. Rocks are energy. The sun is, everything is energy. And when we consume food, which is energy, our body does the transition biochemically and creates energy so that we can burn it. That's energy when we're working. When we're doing a wage, when we have our job, we're expending our economic energy for a wage. What would you rather be paid in? Something that's going to be stolen from you through inflation, or something that's going to preserve the economic energy? And that's all money is. It's a representation of your economic energy. When you're trading, that's one way to either multiply your economic energy, or, for instance, tools or something that makes your job easier. Any tool that helps your labor become easier or a way to multiply your wealth is just a way to increase your economic energy. Gold preserves it. Bitcoin grows it. Real estate, same thing, right? It preserves and grows if you have an income generating. So if you start thinking of money as just a way of means of keeping your economic energy safe, then you start seeing the world a different way. You start seeing the economic world like, what can I use to multiply my economic energy? And that's what earnings is, and that's what investing in businesses. Read the Bitcoin Standard. The first 3 quarters of the book is just his book on economics. And he talks about that early on, that money is energy, that we have economic energy that we're exerting, and we're trying to save it through gold and silver and so forth. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, if you had another follow-up
No,
or whatever, go ahead.
No.
I wanted to get him to try and elaborate a little bit more on the whole Goldbacks. Every time I talk about this particular show coming up, hey, Goldbacks, I'm interested in the Goldbacks.
We can talk about Goldbacks. Let's do it.
You can take the floor away with that. I'm sure we might end up with questions.
Yeah, sure. So gold is money, right? And I told you my job is the executive director of Citizens for Sound Money, and our mission is to promote the use of sound money and to protect people's rights to do so. So we do that through lobbying. Lobbying for what? What we're trying to do is make gold and silver legal tender, because in the United States Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1, the first part says states can't make any money. But a little further down, it says that the only thing they can make money is gold and silver coin for, they can make it tender for the payment of debts. And what we're trying to do is to make normal gold and silver coins legal tender. And that includes this product right here. These are called Goldbacks. You got 1, 5, 10, 25, and 50. Think of the numbers as 1/1000th of an ounce, 5 1,000th of an ounce, or sorry, 1,000th of an ounce, 10 1,000, so forth, or 1/20th, 1/50th, and so forth. This, I pay my cleaning lady with it. I pay certain people who accept it. I sign up 8 merchants locally, my coffee shop, my other coffee shop. They take Goldbacks for the payments of goods and services. I'm trying to make this legal tender because, listen, I don't know if I told this story at the last call, but it breaks my heart, the fiat economy. When I was in Missouri lobbying, there was I ordered an Uber. It was like the last day of session. We were pushing the Constitutional Money Act, and my Uber passed me by. And I noticed it was an older lady in the car, and I'm like, hey, you passed me by. She made a U-turn. I get in. It's a brand new Escalade. And I look at her, and we're talking, and I said, do you mind if I ask how old you are? She's like, yeah, I'm 79 years old. And I'm like, what? And she's a widow, and she's getting her husband's benefit, her pension, and her Social Security. But Social Security, her husband's Social Security and her pension doesn't pay her enough to survive. So she had to come out of retirement to drive Uber for the sole purpose of making enough money to eat.
That's brutal.
To eat. And this happens, people, when I'm traveling in New Hampshire, when I was lobbying, the manager of the hotel, we were talking, and she said she has 2 other jobs. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, I can't make ends meet. And then the next day, I go lobby, come back, and I see her again, and I see she's a little flustered. Well, hey, what's going on? She overslept in the parking lot. Because I asked her, when do you sleep? She's like, I don't. I sleep in the parking lot before my next job, and I quick shower and go. She fell asleep, and she missed her job at Dunkin' Donuts in the morning. You know, she didn't get fired. She just that exhausted. Dude, these are people who 78% of Americans are like this, living paycheck to paycheck, suffering because of the fiat economy. And I'm sorry, did you guys hear that?
I was literally, we can hear you.
No, but you don't hear the. That's good. The mic is good. You don't hear the other sounds.
The mic is good.
Yeah. So you can definitely buy Goldbacks at Alpine Gold. So what I did for her was I tried to give her like a $50 tip or $100 tip, but Uber would only let me do a $23 tip, and I didn't have any cash. So I gave her a $10 Goldback. Which I gave her a 10 Goldback. I said, right now, this is about $50. You can take it to a pawn shop right now and get that. Or if you hold it, I'm pretty sure it's going to go up. And sure enough, it's gone up. It's about 50,
54.20?
what is it? 55,
$54.20.
$56 or something. Oh wait, there it is, $54 right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's gone up since I gave it to her. It was less than $50. So you know, and this is what this is why I'm so passionate about sound money. We are being robbed blind through
Yes.
the Federal Reserve and the stimulus deficit spending of the government. And man, it breaks my heart to see so many Americans struggling and they don't even know why. They don't understand why. They don't know what inflation is. They don't know who's responsible. I'm telling you who's responsible. Congress, the Treasury, and the Federal Reserve. They're the ones responsible because they're drunken sailors spending money that they don't have because
Amen.
it's not money. It's credit. They're creating credit. That's all every dollar is. It's a credit note because it was created through debt. Debt, you make a loan, that loan that you give somebody, that cash is credit, the debt note is a debit, and that's all that dollar is. What I'm doing for Christmas is I just bought a bunch of $1 silver certificates, and I bought a bunch of peace dollars and Morgans, and then I'm going to print off a copy of a treasury bond and have a current dollar. I'm going to say this silver certificate was backed by this silver coin. This silver coin was $1. So was this paper. It was tied 1-to-1. That was up until 1971. I'm going to have a whole explanation, have graphics and everything for my family. And then I'm going to say, this is $1 today, backed by this bond, which is just an IOU. And it takes this many dollars, as I'm going to put the time and day, this many dollars to buy that original silver dollar. And it's like, do the math. That's over 2,500% inflation.
That's crazy. After our last talk, I was thinking about doing the exact same thing, is buy the Goldbacks and give them as gifts. Like that's something that would just increase in value over time.
Yeah,
so,
I'm doing that too, which is great because I did that last year, but I wanted, but it just went over my family's head. What I wanted to do was show them tangibly. This is not it, but let's just assume this is a Morgan dollar. That this was backing the dollar. This is $1 today, but it's not the same. That this was backing the dollar, and when they feel it, when you feel the metal and realize how much is this worth now? If it was $1 back then, before 1971, it's worth $32. What? Or now it's 34. What? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So,
when it's tangible, I mean, it translates a little bit better. You can sort of see the real value when you're actually holding it and looking at it, right?
Yeah. So
I totally agree with that.
100%. And then, we met with the Senate President of Florida on Monday about the Sound Money Act. He's super, he says, I'm digging. I'm very intrigued. He told me it was great. We only spoke for 5% of the time. He was talking and regurgitating the book that we had him read, and he said he promised us, and it's fantastic. I think we might get something passed in Florida next year because of that meeting.
Nice.
But he was talking about in the book, the author said when they were a kid, you could buy a chocolate bar for 10 cents. I'm like, oh, okay. And he went off and off and off. And I'm like, by the way, when he bought that chocolate bar for 10 cents, it was a silver dime. Silver dime today is worth about $2.40, $2.50. You can use that dime from back then to buy a chocolate bar today because
that's about
money maintains its purchasing power. The fiat doesn't. And he's like, huh.
That's a really good example. That's an excellent example of how it translates.
Yeah. And think about it. That dime is 10 cents. It's worth $2.40. 2,400% inflation.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
Insane.
And the stocking stuffer idea is a great idea with the holidays coming up. 100 Air was
stocking
on
stuffer. I don't know. I think that might be the whole gift. I don't know.
100 Air was mentioning it on Crypto on the Rocks on Friday. I'm like, damn, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So man, as you guys can tell, what's this? Spread.
He's just saying spread your assets out, and he's saying crypto, precious metals. He's basically saying diversify is what he's saying. Constantine is here.
Oh yeah, 100%. And remember, I said earlier, don't see gold and silver as an investment. Gold and silver is money, and when you have it, like in Kinesis, where it's digital and you can instantaneously sell your gold and silver for cash and have it in your bank account, you're better off keeping your money in money instead of whatchamacallit, fiat currency.
Fiat, yeah.
Right. So yes, look, and that's another argument I had with this guy that's a trader. He's like, well, I've never heard of anybody putting 100% of their money, 100% of their money into gold. That's
Right.
an interesting statement.
Money.
I'm like, yes, I told him, if you see gold and silver as an asset, that makes sense. Only put 10%. But gold and silver is money. And like, zoom out and look at what's happened since we got off the gold standard, the Bretton Woods standard. It's just gone up and stayed with inflation.
Yeah.
Gold is money.
On point.
100% of it should be in gold and silver. 100%. This is not financial advice. This is facts and truth. 10,000 years.
Just in case. Yeah.
Yeah. This is just facts and truth. And look, that's what I have all my wealth, except for the little bit of money I get from my wage that temporarily is in cash until I put it in gold and silver. All my assets are gold and silver and that $1,000 worth of Bitcoin. That's it, because my net worth is growing pretty much every day right now. And even if it goes down, it's okay. It's up enough that it's worth more than it was when I first put it in there.
Right.
Gold and silver fluctuate short term, but think of it as the short term waves of the ocean. Think of the ocean as inflation, and think of gold and silver as a boat. Yeah, the waves cause the boat to go up and down, but as the tide of inflation goes up, the boat, gold and silver, always stays above the tide.
Always goes up. Yep.
Yeah, we're about to hit a hurricane, so we'll see how that works out.
yeah, man. So I like this.
Sorry
show.
for my internet, guys. Sorry.
No
What I was
worries,
going to say was, I know we got to wrap up pretty soon. I know we got to kind of call it, but Jar, did you have any questions before?
No, he's answered them all. My next question is, when are we going to have him back on? So, because I want to talk to him again in the early next year, just to see a perspective of the markets, because I think a lot of things are going to happen definitely with this election cycle. And then he takes whoever, I say he's going to take the office, but whoever takes the office early next year, I'd like to see what the outcome is and the effect of it.
I've been doing this for 25 years. Based on what I see, the last two elections, he's never been up this far away, which is only 2 weeks from the election. He's never been up. He's up in almost every single battleground state where it matters.
Yeah.
It is.
To me, it seems clear, but I don't know.
More.
This is a Canadian watching American politics, so
yeah. There are more people voting for Trump than never have. The amount of black men that are voting for Trump is like in the 20 or 30 percentile, which is ridiculous. That's never happened with Republicans. The amount of women voting for Trump has gone up. Like, every demographic is voting more for Trump. Yeah, we got Republicans losers that are not voting for him. Whatever. Yeah. But like, dude, look at the bets. It's like 86% betting that Trump's going to win. 86%. People are saying that's more accurate than the polls. I don't think he's going to get 86%. Well, it's real money, but I think the probability of winning, I think that is more right on than the polls right now I'm predicting. I think that people feel it everywhere I go. Now, mind you, I live in a very Republican county. But like, anybody I'm talking to that don't live where I live, like people in Canada and Australia, everybody feels that Trump's going to win. Yeah. It's a very different election than 2020.
Absolutely.
It's very different.
It's not as polarizing as it was before. It just seems very more. It's fundamentals now, and it's just like core beliefs and everything else that's coming to the surface. And I actually respect that a lot more when people are riding on their core beliefs, and that's going to the polls. So I guess we'll see what happens with that. Yeah,
100%.
Excellent. All right. So we'll wrap up right now. Do you have anything else to add? Because we're going to be putting all your links in the description below for anybody that has questions.
Already there.
Excellent.
Yes, one last thing. If you enjoyed what you've heard and you want to support our mission and support a sound money economy coming back through the passing of the Sound Money Act and other sound money legislation, go to Citizens for Sound Money, which we have the link, and join our Pioneer membership. It's $25 a year. You get access to something called Metal Markup, which shows you the cheapest bullion prices to buy online on online retailers. It's a membership benefit. You also get live quarterly broadcasts from me about legislation through videos. And you'll also sign up for our newsletter that we do about monthly about what's been happening within our organization. So if you want to support our mission, click on Become a Member. pay with either, I think, cryptocurrency. We allow payments now, credit card. If you're in Kinesis, you can just send the Kinesis, just send us an email and we'll verify manually versus automatically on our system. And yeah, please support what we're doing. I mean, it's so important. I believe that getting back to sound markets require a sound economy, right? They require sound money. And the only way to get back to a sound market is that the money is stable and the money is true. It's not currency. So I fix the money, fix the world. We say in Bitcoin, same thing with gold and silver. Fix the money, fix the world. I think a lot of issues are going to get fixed by making gold and silver legal tender, and then eventually we fight the battle with the the federal government to make Bitcoin. Shut up and take my money. I love it. Give it to me. Give it to me.
I love it, Chuck. That's funny. I love it. I love it.
I love it. I love it. All right. UPMA UPMA memberships will have a link
Sure.
there. So go to here, I put it on. Hold on. www.upma.org. Let's see, is this right? .upma.org. I believe that's the right website. Let me click on it.
Yep. Give me a second.
Yes. So the UPMA, I'll send you guys the Citizens of Sound Money link as well, so you can post it. UPMA is where you can buy Goldbacks. You can send wire, use credit card or whatever. Buy Goldbacks, buy Golden Eagles, or buy Silver Eagles, and you can lease your Goldbacks or silver and earn between 2 to 3.5% APR, and you're paid in that asset, whether it's gold, silver, or Goldbacks. I like Goldbacks because Goldbacks don't have any vaulting fees. Goldback actually pays the UPMA the vaulting fees, and you can earn up to 3.5% APR in Goldbacks, depending on how much you deposit. And you can buy Goldbacks through the UPMA and pay the exact same prices as you could with Alpine Gold, and it'll be deposited in their vault in Salt Lake City, and you can lease it and earn a yield. And if you don't want to sell your gold for capital gains, they allow you to pawn it for 20 basis points a month or 2.4% a year. So you can actually pawn your metal, get cash, but the interest is in Goldbacks or gold or silver. So just keep that in mind. And here's what I do. I lease enough Goldbacks to pay off the interest on my pawn. So then my lease is paying off my pawn.
Nice.
Nice.
That's a good method.
Amazing. Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. We're going to have Daniel back again because, believe it or not, even between the two interviews we've done, there's still so much more that I know he can talk about right now.
Yeah, we can just do a whole show on the UPMA and Alpine Gold and Goldback. We can do a whole show on Kinesis. Like, we can do a whole show on different topics. Banking, So, hey, but for people who want to learn about gold and silver, there's a great book by Kevin Freeman. It's called Pirate Money. I think it's called the Founding Fathers' Secret Plan to Destroy and Stop the Great Reset or something like that. It's a short book we hand it out to every legislator, and it basically lays out the history of money in our country, the threat of CBDCs, and how we can get back to a sound money economy. They're one of our partners, Economic War Room. It's a great book. That book
what was
really
the name of the book again?
It's called Pirate Money. Let me get the
Pirate
link.
Money. Okay.
Pirate Money, Kevin Freeman. And let me see. There it is. I'm going to send you the Amazon link. Here we go. Boom. There you go. And then you can pull it up to show people.
Let's get that there.
Are you pulling it up, Jar?
Yep. I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay. I'll put it in the chat so everybody can have it if they want it.
Perfect. Yeah, and that's a great book. It would also support them. They are a for-profit company, so they don't take donations, and they have been expending a lot of their own money to lobby across the country like we have. And that book is a fantastic book, great read. We've given it to legislators, and it really opens legislators' eyes. And the more Americans that can read this, the more support we can get for the Sound Money movement, the better.
Excellent.
And that's it. Those are my last plugs.
That's all right. Well, I appreciate you coming back. Truly, I do. It's always a great stream. So you've been a wealth of knowledge.
Absolutely, man. anytime you guys want to have me on, I'm here. You know, I love sharing about the latest and what's going on legislatively, economically. I'm a little bit of an economic nerd, you know, a little bit of a geek when it comes to gold and silver and Bitcoin and crypto and all that. And as you can tell, I've transitioned. I didn't forsake Bitcoin. Bitcoin's there for a purpose. It's just not the time
Yes.
right now for me to multiply my wealth. Right now is the time to protect my wealth because I don't know what's going to happen. And
Right.
Bitcoin is way too volatile when there's times when you don't know what's going to happen.
Gotcha.
So, lots to come up in the next year. Anyways,
Yep.
Daniel, thank you for coming on. We'll see you again early next year. I definitely want to have you in there, maybe January sometime. That would be great. But appreciate
Absolutely.
you joining us on the Matrix Money Show.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for
Thank you
having me
very
on.
much.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers. Goodbye,
Cheers.
everyone. Have a great day.
You too.
Take care.